The stars were quiet that night. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UNSF Indomitable. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the United Nations Space Fleet for 30 years. He had seen many things, but tonight, everything would change. The Third Expeditionary Fleet was far from Earth. 12 warships moved through empty space, mapping new star systems. It was boring work. The crew was restless. They had been away from home for 8 months. Park looked out the main window at the endless darkness. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was getting married next month. He would miss the wedding. This made him sad, but duty came first. It always did. "Admiral," said a voice behind him. He turned. Lieutenant Commander stood at her station. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with sharp eyes and quick hands. She was the best communications officer in the fleet. "What is it?" Park asked. "We are getting a signal, sir. It is very weak, coming from the system." Park walked over to her station. The system was 3 days away. It was home to a species called the Humanity had met them 5 years ago. They were peaceful creatures. They looked like large insects with beautiful wings. They built cities out of crystal. They had no weapons, no military. They solved problems with talking, not fighting. "Can you clean up the signal?" Park asked. Worked her controls. The static cleared slowly. Then a voice came through. It was high and thin, full of fear. "Please, anyone, they are killing us. Please help. They came from the dark. They are burning our cities. Our children are dying. Please, anyone, help us." The message repeated, over and over, the same desperate words. The bridge went silent. Every officer stopped working. They all listened to that terrible voice. Park felt something cold in his chest. He had heard distress calls before, but this one was different. This one was pure terror. "How long has this been playing?" he asked. "The computer says 12 hours, sir," replied. Her voice was shaking. "Maybe longer." 12 hours. That meant the attack had started at least 12 hours ago. Maybe they were already dead. Maybe there was no one left to save. But maybe there was. "Get me Captain," Park said. A minute later, Captain appeared on screen. He commanded the destroyer. He was a serious man who never smiled. "You heard the signal?" Park asked. "Yes, Admiral, the whole fleet heard it." "What do you think?" Was quiet for a moment. "The system is in space. If we go there, we break the treaty with the Galactic Concord. They could punish us, ban us from their trade routes, maybe worse." Park knew this. The Galactic Concord was a group of older species who controlled most of the galaxy. They had rules. One rule said no species could interfere in another species' territory. The Dominion had claimed the space around years ago. "And if we do nothing?" Park asked. "Then they die, all of them." Park closed his eyes. He thought about the rules. He thought about treaties and politics and the careful balance of power in the galaxy. Then he thought about that voice, that scared, desperate voice asking for help. He opened his eyes. "Set course for the system, maximum speed." Nodded. He did not argue. None of them did. The fleet turned. 12 ships, 8,000 humans. They were heading into enemy territory to save a species they barely knew. Looked up at the Admiral. "Sir, the Conquered will be angry." "Let them be angry. They have a large fleet. We do not know how many ships." "Then we will find out. We could all die." Park looked at her. His eyes were hard but kind. "Lieutenant, do you know what humans are to the galaxy? We come from a planet that tries to kill us every day. Storms, earthquakes, diseases, predators. We survived all of it. We did not survive by being careful. We survived by being brave." He turned back to the window. The stars were moving now as the ship changed direction. "Someone out there is screaming for help. They are weak. They cannot fight. They have no one else. And we heard them." He paused. "What kind of people would we be if we did nothing?" No one answered. No one needed to. The fleet flew through the darkness. In the engine rooms, crews pushed the reactors harder. In the armories, soldiers checked their weapons. In the medical bays, doctors prepared for wounded. Admiral Park stayed on the bridge. He did not sleep that night. He kept listening to the signal. That scared voice, calling into the void, hoping someone would answer. "We are coming," he whispered to no one. "Hold on, we are coming." 3 days. That was how long it would take to reach. 3 days of not knowing if anyone was still alive. 3 days of hopping they were not too late. The stars watched in silence as humanity's fleet raced toward war. The system was burning. Admiral Park saw it the moment his fleet came out of hyperspace. The hung in the darkness like a wounded animal. Great columns of smoke rose from the surface. Fires covered entire continents. Even from space, he could see the destruction. "Report," he said quietly. Worked her controls with shaking hands. "I am counting. 73 enemy warships, Admiral. They have surrounded the planet. Ground forces are on the surface." 73 ships. Park had 12. "What about the—" "Some cities are still standing. I am reading life signs. Maybe 2 million survivors. They are hiding in underground shelters." 2 million. They had a population of 8 billion before the attack. Park felt sick. "Who are they?" he asked, looking at the enemy fleet. "Dominion," answered from his ship. "Their markings are clear. This is a full invasion force." The Park knew about them. Everyone did. They were large reptiles covered in thick scales. They had conquered 17 species in the last 100 years. They did not want trade or friendship. They wanted slaves. They believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. They took what they wanted. They killed anyone who tried to stop them. "They have seen us," said. "We are getting a transmission." "Put it through." A face appeared on the main screen. It was reptilian, with yellow eyes and rows of sharp teeth. The creature wore heavy armor decorated with bones. Human bones, Park realized with horror. "I am Overlord," they said. His voice was deep and rough. "Commander of this fleet, you are human, yes." "I am Admiral Park of the United Nations Space Fleet." Laughed, it was an ugly sound. "Humans, we have heard of you, small creatures from a small world. You found space travel, 200 years ago. You are children. We are here to help They belong to us now. They will serve the Dominion. This is not your concern." Park kept his voice calm. "They sent a distress signal, we answered." "Then you are fools," leaned closer to the screen. "I have 73 warships, you have 12. If you do not leave now, I will destroy you. Then I will find your home world. I will burn it like I burned this one. Your children will be my slaves." The bridge was silent. Everyone was watching Park. He thought about the numbers. 73 against 12. His tactical officer had run the simulations during the 3-day journey. Every outcome showed massive losses. Some showed complete destruction. But Park had also read the reports about they were strong, yes. They had big ships and powerful weapons, but they were also slow. They fought the same way every time. They used their size to crush enemies. They had never fought humans before. "Overlord," Park said slowly, "do you know what it is?" The reptile blinked. "What?" It is what the galaxy calls species like us. Species that evolved on dangerous planets." "I do not care about your planet." "You should," Park smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "My planet has earthquakes that destroy cities, storms that cover entire oceans, diseases that killed millions of us, predators that hunted us for food. The temperature changes by 50 degrees between seasons. The air pressure is so heavy that most species cannot breathe." Said nothing. "We survived all of it," Park continued. "For 200,000 years we fought our own world just to stay alive. We fought each other. We fought nature. We never stopped fighting. We became very, very good at it." "You are trying to scare me," growled. "It will not work." "I'm not trying to scare you. I am giving you a choice. Leave this system now and we will let you go. Stay and we will destroy you. Laughed again. 12 ships against 73. You are insane. Maybe, but we are also very angry. Park cut the transmission. Appeared on a side screen. Admiral, what is the plan? We attack. Sir, the odds. I know the odds, Captain, but we have something they do not understand. We have 10,000 years of war in our blood. We have fought in conditions they cannot imagine. They think size and numbers will win. They are wrong. Park turned to his crew. These were his people, humans, survivors of the deadliest planet in known space. All ships battle stations. We are going in fast and hard. Do not give them time to react. Do not let them use their size against us. Get close. Stay moving. Hit them where it hurts. Across the fleet, alarms sounded. Soldiers ran to their positions. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Everyone knew this might be the last day of their lives. But no one ran, no one hid, no one asked to turn back. Because somewhere on that burning planet, 2 million innocent beings were waiting for help, and humans had never been good at ignoring people who needed them. All ships, Park said one last time, let us show them what can do. The fleet moved forward, 12 small ships against an empire. The battle had begun. They had never seen anything like it. Their tactics were simple: move in formation, use big guns, crush the enemy with superior firepower. It had worked against 17 species. It had always worked. But humans did not fight like other species. The destroyer was the first to attack. Captain ordered his pilot, ensign Han, to take them straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Full speed, she said. Her hands moved across the controls like water. Hold on to something. The ship screamed forward. The engines pushed so hard that the hull groaned. Inside, the crew felt the force crushing them into their seats. 9 times normal gravity. Most species would pass out. Some would die. Humans just gritted their teeth and held on. Was 24 years old. She had grown up in a city by the sea. She learned to fly small boats before she could read. She learned to fly spacecraft at 16. She was the best pilot in the fleet. The ships tried to track her. Their targeting systems were built for slow, predictable movement, but was not slow. She was not predictable. She dove and twisted and spun through gaps that should not exist. Enemy fire missed by meters. Firing shouted. The released its missiles at point-blank range. 3 cruisers exploded. Their shields were designed to stop attacks from far away. They never expected an enemy to get so close. Across the battle, other human ships did the same thing. They flew fast. They took risks. They used moves that any sane species would call suicide. But humans had learned long ago that survival sometimes meant doing crazy things. The carrier released its fighters. 200 small craft poured out like angry insects. Each one carried a single pilot. Lieutenant Shin led them. Stay fast, stay low, she told her pilots. Do not let them lock onto you. Hit their engines, hit their weapons, make them blind. The fighters were tiny compared to warships, but that was their strength. They were too small to hit, too fast to catch. They swarmed around enemy ships, firing at weak points. The commander, Overlord, watched in confusion. His fleet was falling apart. Ships were burning. Communications were chaos. Nothing made sense. How are they doing this? He demanded. They are outnumbered. They should be dead. No one could answer him. The truth was simple but terrifying. Humans had evolved to be predators. Not the biggest predators, not the strongest, but the most persistent, the most creative, the most willing to adapt. On Earth, ancient humans had hunted animals 10 times their size. They did not do it with strength. They did it with teamwork, with planning, with the ability to keep going when other creatures stopped. Now, 10,000 years later, that same instinct drove them through the fire of battle. Sergeant Major led the boarding teams. His job was to take enemy ships from the inside. Boarding pods ready, his lieutenant reported. Launch. Small metal cylinders shot across space. They hit the side of a battleship and drilled through the hull. Seconds later, 30 Marines poured into the enemy vessel. The conditions inside were terrible. They had vented the atmosphere to kill any intruders. The temperature dropped to -50 degrees. Radiation alarms screamed. The thought this would stop the humans. It did not. And his Marines kept moving. Their suits protected them, but just barely. Ice formed on their visors. Their fingers went numb, but they kept fighting. Push forward, shouted. Take the engine room. They fought through corridors filled with soldiers. The reptiles were bigger, stronger, but they were also slow. They relied on their thick scales and heavy weapons. Humans relied on speed, precision, the ability to keep going even when their bodies screamed for rest. Shot 3 in 2 seconds. His Marines moved like shadows, covering each other, never stopping. The enemy could not keep up. 20 minutes later, the battleship was theirs. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold. His fleet was winning. Against all odds, they were winning. But it was not free. Admiral said quietly, "The cruiser is badly damaged. They have lost main engines." Park looked at the tactical display. That was drifting toward the center of the enemy formation. Commander Sara was in charge. "Get me," he said. A moment later, her face appeared on screen. She was young, barely 40. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. "Admiral," she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Sara, can you get your engines back online?" "No, sir, they are gone. We cannot run." She paused, "but we can still fight." Park understood. His heart broke, but he understood. "You do not have to do this," he said softly. "Yes, I do," she smiled. It was sad but peaceful. "Admiral, we came here to save innocent people. That is worth dying for." She cut the transmission. The turn toward the largest ship, the one carrying Overlord. It moved slowly at first, then faster, using every bit of remaining power. "All hands brace for impact," announced to her crew. "It has been an honor." They hit the enemy flagship at full speed. The explosion lit up the void like a new sun. Admiral Park bowed his head. Around him, his crew was silent. They had lost friends today, brothers and sisters. But the battle was not over yet. "Keep fighting," he said quietly. "Make their sacrifice mean something." The fleet obeyed, and they began to break. The ground war was worse than the space battle. Lieutenant Nam led 200 Marines down to the planet's surface. Their mission was simple: protect the surviving until the fighting ended. Simple missions, she knew, were never easy. The drop pods hit the ground hard, was out before the dust settled. Around her, her soldiers formed up quickly. They had trained for this. They were ready. But nothing could have prepared them for what they saw. The city was destroyed. Beautiful crystal towers lay broken on the ground. Bodies were everywhere. Small bodies with delicate wings that would never fly again. Felt anger rise in her chest, hot and sharp. She pushed it down. Anger was good. Anger gave strength, but she needed control. "Move to the shelters," she ordered. "Double time." They ran through the ruined streets. The air was thick with smoke. The ground shook from distant explosions. Somewhere the ground forces were still killing. The underground shelters were 2 kilometers away. Inside, according to their scans, 2 million waited. They had nowhere else to go. His team reached the shelter entrance in 10 minutes. A group stood outside, trembling. They were tall and thin, with skin like polished glass. Their large eyes reflected the fires burning around them. One of them stepped forward. It spoke in broken human language. You came, the signal you heard." "We heard," said. "We are here to help. Get your people deeper inside. We will hold the entrance." The The stared at her, tears ran down its face. "Why, we are not your people, we have nothing to give you." Looked at this fragile creature. It had never held a weapon. It had never fought in a war. Its entire species had evolved on a gentle world where nothing tried to kill them. Humans were different. Humans were forged in fire. "You do not need to give us anything," she said. "That is not why we fight." They did not understand, but it obeyed. It led its people deeper underground. Turned to her soldiers. "Set up defensive positions. They will come soon." She was right. An hour later they arrived. 3,000 soldiers marching in formation. They had heavy armor and bigger guns. They expected an easy victory. 200 humans stood in their way. "Here they come," said Sergeant O. He was second in command, an older man with scars on his hands. 3,000, maybe more. "I see them. We cannot win." "We do not need to win. We just need to hold until the fleet finishes above." Nodded slowly. "How long?" 4 hours, maybe 5. He laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "Well, that is not so bad." They came like a wave. They fired as they advanced, thinking the humans would break and run. Humans did not run. And her Marines met them with precision fire. Every shot counted. Every movement was calculated. They used the ruins for cover. They rotated positions to confuse the enemy. They did not waste a single bullet. The first hour was bloody. They pushed hard. They had numbers. They had firepower, but they did not have endurance. Humans could keep fighting for days without food. They could stay awake for 40 hours if needed. Their bodies were built for long hunts, for chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They were not built for that. They were cold-blooded. They needed rest. They needed to regulate their temperature. By the third hour, the enemy attacks were weaker. They were tired, confused. They had never fought an enemy that simply refused to stop. Was wounded by then. A laser had burned through her armor and hit her shoulder. The pain was terrible. She ignored it. "Medic," someone called. Later, she said, "Keep firing." Around her, other Marines were hurt. Some were dead. But the survivors kept fighting. They helped each other. They covered each other. They refused to let their friends die alone. This was something they could not understand. They fought for conquest, for glory, for themselves. Humans fought for each other. In the shelter below, they watched through cameras. They saw these strange creatures bleeding and dying to protect them. Creatures they had never met before this day. One young asked its parent, "Why do they do this? Why do they suffer for us?" The parent had no answer. By the 4th hour, the ground commander called a retreat. Half his soldiers were dead or wounded. The humans had lost 80 Marines, but they still held the line. "They will not stop," the commander reported to what remained of the fleet above. "They just will not stop." In orbit, the space battle was ending. 41 ships were destroyed. 22 more had surrendered. The rest were running. Admiral Park sent a message to Lieutenant. "The fleet is secure. Reinforcements are coming. Hold for 1 more hour." 1 more hour. Looked at her remaining soldiers. They were exhausted, wounded. Some could barely stand. 1 more hour, she told them. They nodded. No complaints, no fear, just determination. The final assault came 30 minutes later. It was desperate, chaotic. The enemy knew they had lost, but they attacked anyway. Met them at the front line. She fired until her weapon overheated. Then she used her knife. Then her fists. When the human reinforcements finally arrived, they found Lieutenant Nam standing in front of the shelter entrance. Her armor was destroyed. Her body was covered in wounds, but she was still standing. Behind her, 2 million were alive. "Lieutenant," the relief commander said, "you can rest now." Looked at him, then she looked at the shelter entrance. Then she collapsed. She had held the line. 1 month after the battle, Admiral Park stood before the Galactic Concord. The Great Hall was enormous. Representatives from 100 species sat in floating platforms arranged in a circle around the central floor. Some were tall and thin, some were small and round, some had wings, some had tentacles. All of them were watching the human. Park wore his dress uniform. The medals on his chest felt heavy. 847 humans had died at. Every medal represented their sacrifice. The High Arbiter spoke first. It was an ancient creature, thousands of years old, with pale skin and no eyes. Admiral Park, you stand accused of violating the non-interference treaty. You entered territory without permission. You attacked their fleet. You killed thousands of their soldiers. How do you answer? Park stood straight. I answer that I did what was right. Whispers filled the hall. Such defiance was rare here. The treaty exists for a reason, the Arbiter continued. We cannot have species attacking each other whenever they wish. There must be order. I agree, Park said, but there must also be justice. They were committing genocide. They killed 6 billion innocent people. They would have killed more. Someone had to stop them. That was not your decision to make. Then whose decision was it? Yours. Park looked around the hall. Did any of you answer the signal? Did any of you send ships to help? No. You sat here in your comfortable stations and did nothing. The whispers grew louder, some angry, some uncomfortable. We have rules, the Arbiter said coldly. Rules that let children die. Park's voice was hard now. I saw the bodies. I saw what they did to cities, to families, to people who never hurt anyone. Your rules allowed that. You are young. You do not understand how the galaxy works. Maybe not, but I understand how humanity works. When someone screams for help, we answer. When the weak are attacked, we protect them. This is who we are. This is who we have always been. The hall was silent now. Then a new voice spoke. It was soft and musical, like wind through crystal. May I speak? Everyone turned. A floated down from the upper platforms. It was old, with faded wings and clouded eyes, but it moved with dignity. I am elder, the creature said. I speak for what remains of my people. The Arbiter nodded. You may speak. Turned to face the entire assembly. 1 month ago, my world was dying. Our cities burned. Our children screamed. We sent a signal into the void expecting nothing. We had no weapons, no allies, no hope. It paused. The silence was complete. Then they came. 12 small ships against an empire. They did not know us. We had nothing to offer them. No trade goods, no technology, no strategic value, but they came anyway. Looked at Admiral Park. I watched them fight. I watched them die, not for money, not for power, just because we needed help and they could give it. Tears fell from the old's eyes. 847 humans died for us. They left families behind, children who will grow up without parents, and they did it for strangers. Turned back to the conquered. You speak of rules, of treaties, of order, but what good is order if it protects monsters? What good are rules if they let innocents die? No one answered. The humans broke your treaty, yes, but they saved my people. 2 million of us are alive because of them. We will remember this forever. We will tell our children and they will tell their children. The day that came. His voice grew stronger. If you punish them for this, you punish compassion itself. You tell the galaxy that kindness is a crime. Is that the message you want to send? The hall remained silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, other species began to speak. The whose world was threatened by expansion. The who had lost 2 colonies to the Dominion. The who had been too afraid to fight back. They all said the same thing. The humans did what we could not. The High Arbiter listened to everything. Finally, it raised a hand for silence. This council will consider all testimony. We will make our decision tomorrow. The next day, the charges against Admiral Park were dismissed. The announcement sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time, someone had stood against the established order and won. not through politics or money, but through simple courage. The Dominion never recovered. Other species, inspired by humanity's example, began to resist their expansion. Within 5 years, the Dominion collapsed entirely. On the day the fleet returned to Earth, Admiral Park stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable. Captain found him there, staring at the blue planet below. "The Conquered is afraid of us now," said. "Good," Park replied. "Fear keeps predators away. And the others, the weak ones, the ones who might need help someday." Park smiled. It was tired but warm. "They know we are here. They know that if they call, we will answer." He thought about the 847 who did not come home, about Commander Sora and her final, brave act, about Lieutenant Nam still recovering from her wounds, about all the humans who had risked everything for strangers. "That is what do," he said softly. "We survive, we fight, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves." Nodded, he understood. Far away, in the rebuilt shelters they were telling stories. Stories about strange creatures from a deadly world. Creatures who came when no one else would. Creatures who fought and bled and died for people they had never met. They called them friends. And across the galaxy others were listening, learning, hopping. Because now they knew, if darkness ever came for them, humanity would answer. That was the promise of that was the gift of Earth.